everyone, in this video we will be solving polynomial function, and this is the first part. Let's take this first example right here. Solve x cubed minus 7x squared plus 19x equals 13. What it's trying to tell us is that we need to determine what are the values of x here such that this whole equation will become a 0. So there are steps that we need to follow in order that we can determine the x values for this. The first step is to determine all the possible roots using the rational zero theorem. So I'm just gonna write the first step right here. Okay, so what I did here on the first step is that I determined the factors of p and q. This one is going to go to the numerator, the positive and the negative 13. And then the invisible one right here is going to go to the denominator here, which is 1. So then I need to determine the factors of 13. So that's going to be plus minus 1 and plus minus 13. And then the factors of 1 is just 1. So then the possible roots are... To determine the possible roots, we're going to divide each one of these. So that's gonna be, so 1 divided by 1 would just be a plus minus 1. And then 13 divided by 1 is just a plus minus 13. So then these are the possible roots. Now, after we determine the possible roots, we're ready to move on to the second step. We're going to use Polydoku to test which one of these are factors. So then I'm gonna show the work up here. So the first one that we're going to test would be x plus 1. So I'm just gonna write it up here. Okay, so we need to determine if x plus 1 is a factor. So we're going to divide x plus 1 to the given equation that we have here. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I'm going to draw 5 vertical lines. Okay, on this table, I'm going to write here the x plus 1, and then all of these will be written at the end of this vertical line. Okay, and then the same thing as we did from the previous lessons using Polydoku. This one is going up here. So this would come out x cubed. And so I need to figure out what expression do I write here so that if I multiply these two, it's x cubed. So that would be x squared. And I multiply these two, that is x squared. So then I am going to subtract these two. So I will put a minus sign. That means it's negative 7x squared minus x squared would be negative 8x squared. So this is negative 8x squared. And so this one right here would be a negative 8x. This is a negative 8x. And so I am going to subtract these two again. So again, this is a minus, and whatever the answer is, I will put that up here. So this becomes 19x minus negative 8x would be positive 27x. So then this is 27 and that is 27. Again, I will repeat the process. This will be subtracted together. So negative 13 minus 27 would be a negative 40. And this number is gonna go here. So that's the remainder, negative 40. The factor theorem states that if f of x is divided by a factor x minus a, then the remainder is 0. Since the remainder right here is not 0, we can go ahead and say that this x minus 1 is not a factor. So we go ahead and move on to the next one, which is x minus 1. So I'm just going to show the work here. So the question here would be, is x minus 1 a factor? Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to, instead of x plus 1, I'm going to use x minus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write 5 columns here. Okay, so the one that I will write on this chart right here would be x minus 1. And then at the end of each vertical lines will be this ones. And then I will use Polydoku to determine the quotient for this and see if the remainder is 0. So the x cubed is gonna come here. And then this means that this is x squared negative x squared. And so I will subtract these two together. So that becomes negative 7x squared minus negative 1x squared would come out a negative 6x squared. So this is going to be negative 6x squared right here, and then I will repeat the process. Okay, after I did the Polydoku, I see that the remainder here is 0. Based on the factor theorem, if f of x is divided by a factor x minus a, then the remainder is 0, which means that since our remainder here is 0, x minus 1 is a factor. So we go ahead and write this on the equation right here. By the way, if we look at the equation that we have here, this is on the third power, which means that there are 3 parentheses that we are going to create. And the process that we just did is actually determining what are the values that we put into these parentheses such that if we multiply these 3, it will come out to this. So the first factor was already x minus 1. So I'm just going to write that down here. That's x minus 1 is our first factor. Now, what are we going to do next is we move on to the third step. When we get to the second degree, use either the box and diamond or the quadratic formula. Since our answer right here when we got the 0 remainder is already on the second degree, so we go ahead and use either the box and diamond or the quadratic formula. Just by looking at this expression right here, there are no factors of 13 such that if we add them, it's negative 6. Since the box and diamond doesn't work, we go ahead and use the quadratic formula. So then I'm going to show the work for the quadratic formula right here. Okay, so I determined the A, B, and C using this one right here. So I wrote this expression up there, and then I determined the A, B, and C, and I'm going to use these values A, B, and C into the quadratic formula. And this is the quadratic formula. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is to plug in these values A, B, and C so that we are able to get these values here. So okay, at this point, we got a 6 plus minus 4i over 2. The reason for that is because we have negative 16. Square root of negative 16 is 4, and then the negative is represented by I. Now, we remember that there are 2 parts for this, the plus and the minus. So I'm going to show both the plus here and then the minus part. So then I go ahead and rewrite it. Okay, now we remember that this 2 right here is actually a denominator for both 6 and 4. So then we go ahead and do that, and then that should come out. X is equal to, that would be 3, and then plus, then we divide the 4i divided by 2 is 2i. And then the other part right here would be x is equal to, again, remember we divide these two together, so that is 6 divided by 2 would be 3. And then negative 4i divided by 2 is a negative 2i. So this would come out a negative 2i right here. So these are our x values. So these are our x values right here. So if we want to change this to its factored form, this would be x minus 3 plus 2i. And then this one right here would be x x minus 3 minus 2i. So what I did was switch and keep. So that becomes a negative and keep. So switch and keep. So I switched it and kept it. So then these are the ones that we write on the parentheses here. So this is x minus 3 plus 2i and x minus 3 minus 2i. And so that is equal to 0. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, since we are supposed to solve for this, the fourth step is to use the zero product property to solve for x. Since these are all equal to 0, we can go ahead and set this all equal to 0. So that is x minus 1 equals 0. That's going to be a plus 1 and plus 1 right there. So our first x is a positive 1. So that is the first. Okay, so these are the values that will make this equation equal to 0. So all these three values that I placed inside the box are the x values that will make this equation equal to 0. That's it. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!